In this video, the Historic Ordnance Series, we are going to be looking at a new Russian landmine. What you are looking at is the Russian POB, bounding fragmentation mine, or as the Russian sappers call it, the Pilka. Now, POB, the translated name for it, and I am not going to try pronouncing it in Russian, I'm going to give the translated name in English, is anti-personnel fragmentation munition. This mine is meant to replace the OZM 72 series of bounding fragmentation mines. This mine is meant to primarily be command detonated, but it can be set up to be target operated or target initiated. Now, these mines entered service in 2005. Their first combat employment was in Ukraine in 2022. The only countries currently using this mine are Russia and Ukraine, and the ones that Ukraine has are ones that they captured from the Russians. Now, some of the technicals on this: it is 3.5 inches in diameter. Height without the fuse is 6 3/4 inches. Total width of the mine with the tube on the side here, which is the firing channel for the firing device, is 4 3/4 inches. Weight is 5.5 pounds, of which 1 pound is the explosive filler, and the explosive filler is TG40. Now, this mine, the body is made out of plastic, and inside here, around the main charge, are essentially saw blades. I did see a picture where the Russians took one of these apart, and these literally look like saw blades going all the way around the explosive charge. And when that charge, gets to the height it's supposed to above the ground, it detonates. It shatters those saw blades, sending them out like razors flying through the air. Now, these mines are set to go off between 15 inches to 24 inches above the ground. This is about half the height of the OZM series of bounding fragmentation mines. Those went off at around 1 meter or waist height. These things go off essentially around the kneecap. So the question could be, which is more humane? Having those saw blades going off, trying to chop your knees out and your legs out from under you, or having essentially a coffee can of ball bearings going off right at your crotch? I don't know, but personally, I think between the two, this might turn out to be a little bit preferable. Casualty radius on this is 20 meters. Now, temp range on this for employment, and this is when it's employing the MOV series fuse, is -40 degrees Fahrenheit to a max of 122 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason for that, the MOV 2, MOV 3, MOV 4, they all have a little timing element inside those that has to be cut through by a wire in order to arm the fuse. Well, there's a max temp on that one, and a don't go below this temp because it's not going to work. That's why they have that. This mine can be set off with the MOV series fuse, which turns it into target initiated, but it is meant to primarily be set off with the NM firing device, like you see right here. This is the same firing device that is the primary that they use on their MON 50, MON 90, MON 100, MON 200. So this is that same initiation system where you have the NM and attached to it an MD5M detonator or blasting cap. You have a firing wire that's attached to this, which goes back to a PM4 firing device for initiation by the ambusher. Now, this mine can also be employed using the MVE 72 firing device and the MVE 90 firing devices. These are ones that are seismically activated, if I remember correctly. I think I covered these a little bit, at least showed pictures of them when I did the Mon 50 landmine video. Now, I also came across information that this can be set off with a new style landmine control system, the NVU-P or the NVU-P2 landmine control system. This looks like a box. A bunch of different firing wires come into it, get locked in onto the connectors. You can do circuit check with this board, and then when your enemy comes inside the kill zone, the soldier or officer that's controlling this just hits the button of which particular piece of ordnance he wants to go off when. He can do them as a series, he can do them as individually, whatever he so chooses. That's what it looks like. Now, Russian sappers outright admit that the Pilka is a copy of a U.S. World War II bounding fragmentation mine. This is a copy of the U.S. M2A4 bounding fragmentation mine. And when I seen the pictures of this at first, I thought that this was an IED version of the M2A4, and that this was something that had been encountered in Ukraine or encountered in Syria. But when I ran that info through a translation program, it came up that no, this was actually being produced by the Russians. So they took a U.S. World War II mine, updated it with newer materials, and has pushed it out there. Now, installation and removal instructions on this, I'm only going to cover with the MOV series fuse and command detonation using the NM firing device. I do not have the information for doing it with the MV72 or the new NVU-P landmine control system. Now, installation on command det. First off, you're going to inspect the mine. You're going to inspect the number 8 blasting cap. You're going to inspect the firing device. You're going to inspect your actual clacker or plunger and your firing wire. Everything passes inspection. You're going to pack everything up and take it out to the location where it's going to be emplaced. Now, this mine can be emplaced above ground or in the ground. If it is above ground, you have to tie this off to a stake or a tree, a fence post, something to keep it in position, keep it from falling over. If it is put into the ground, it goes to a depth that this little plug on top is level with the ground. Do not go too much more above this. So, prep the area accordingly. Once you got the location prepped, you're going to prep the mine itself. You're going to pull the mine out. You're going to remove the fuse well cap here in the center of the mine, and you're going to install the number 8 non-electric blasting cap into the fuse well here, open and down. Now, it looks like there is a piece of plastic or a protrusion that comes off the bottom of this cap to make sure that the blasting cap does get fully seated where it needs to inside the mine here. So you'll put that protrusion back in the mine and then screw it back into place. Then you're going to put the mine into place, either in the hole or attach it to the stake. Now, after you got it set, you're going to go through and you're going to check to make sure it's level. On the very top here, which you can actually see in this photo here, there's a little bubble level. You need to make sure that this mine is level. Why? They don't explain in the Russian literature. They just had that emphasized in there. The mine must be level. So after you have confirmed the level on it, that will be when you attach an MD5M detonator to the NM firing device. and then screw it into the detonator well here on the side. Now if you notice, there is a small cap here on top. Just untwist that, remove it, put the detonator down inside, screw it into place. Attach on your firing wire, and then you're going to go through camouflage, then run your firing wire back to your firing position, tie it off to an anchor. Do a circuit check if possible. I do not know if they have a separate test set to do it. Pass a circuit check, then you're going to attach your PM4 firing device, and you're ready to rock and roll. Now, removing this from emplacement. We did not set it off. The ambush is being called off. You will disconnect your PM4 firing device. You will then follow your firing wire up to the mine. Now, in theory, you kept a good watch on it the entire time. So then you're going to uncamouflage your mine. You're then going to remove the NM firing device, remove the MD5M detonator from the end of it, pack it into the bag. You're then going to dig out the mine from the ground or detach it from the stake. You're going to open up the fuse well cover here and then take the mine, turn it over, and then palm on palm here, holding the mine, try to get that blasting cap out of the fuse well. Put the fuse well cover back on, pack up the mine and the blasting cap, and then recover your NM firing device and your firing wire, pack everything up, use it again later. Now, employment in with a MOV series fuse. You're putting this in as a traditional bounding fragmentation mine. First off, you're going to go through, you're going to inspect the mine, you're going to inspect the number 8 blasting cap, you're going to inspect your MOV series fuse, and you're going to inspect the MD5M detonator that gets screwed into the bottom of it, depending on which fuse it is in the series. Everything passes inspection, pack it up, take it with you to the location where it's going to be prepped. Once again, you can place it above ground or in ground. Same information. So we've chosen our spot. We're going to put this in above ground next to a trail. So we picked out a tree, or we put in an anchor stake right off the edge of the trail, hidden inside some bushes. We're going to tie on the mine to that stake. Then we're going to go through, open up the fuse well cover. We're going to insert the number 8 non-electric blasting cap inside, open end, facing down, pushing it down into the well using the protrusion on the bottom of the fuse well cap, and then screw the cap in place. Double check our level is good. Then we're going to go through, prep the MOV series fuse, screw on the MD5M detonator to the bottom, remove the shipping plug from our detonator channel here, screw in the firing device into the channel, make sure our combat pin is facing the correct direction. We're then going to go across the trail, find a location to be our other anchor. We're going to tie in a tripwire at that location and string it back to the combat pin and then attach it in onto there. At that point, we're going to go through, remove the safety pin from up top here. Then we're going to remove this little spacer and camouflage the mine. It's ready to go. Now, removing this from service, and it's going to be only with the MOV 1 series fuse, because if I remember correctly, the 2 through the 4, the 2, 3, 4, all are supposed to be destroyed in place. You can't reuse them. So with the MOV 1, or just plain MUV series fuse, We're going to go through, locate the mine. We're going to check around it to make sure there's no other booby traps or mines that have been put in place. If we find any, we clear those. We then locate exactly where this mine is at. Very carefully, we are going to remove the camouflage from around the mine to get a look at it. Locate the tripwire. Before we leave, we're going to put the spacer on if we have it, and we're going to insert the safety pin in the fuse. We're then going to follow that tripwire out to the anchor point to make sure there is not another booby trap or mine tied off on the other end of the tripwire. If there isn't, we then go back to the mine, disconnect the tripwire from the combat pin. We've already put the safety pin in there. We're going to unscrew the fuse from the top of the mine. We're going to separate the MD5M detonator from the fuse, pack that stuff up. We're then going to disconnect the mine from our anchor, since we did this above ground. We're then going to remove the fuse well cap here. Turn it over, gently shake it to get that blasting cap from out of the center of the fuse well. Then we're going to return the fuse well cap back into place. Pack everything up, clean up the area, reuse the mine later. There's the basic instructions on putting this mine into position. This is a very new mine. It's only been in inventory reportedly for 19 years now at the time that this video is being made. And it's being tested on the battlefields of Ukraine right now. I do not have any information from the Russian sappers as to how effective these have been yet. But I don't doubt that within another year or two here, especially if the ceasefire does get signed here soon, we will start getting that information from the troops on the ground as to how well this worked on the battlefields. This will be a mine that will appear in a lot more countries in the future because it is meant to be command detonated, which means it kind of skirts around the protocols from the Ottawa Landmine Ban Treaty. This can be emplaced using a victim-initiated or target-initiated fuse, but it's primarily meant to be command detonated, which means it's allowable under that treaty. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot Militia movements, always remember essay-ons.